Alright, welcome back everyone. So, just so you know, if you guys have seen my last video, you guys would know that I'm officially having a microphone. So, I had showed in my last video that I got a microphone kit, and it is attached to my phone, and for the next week, I will be using this microphone constantly. So, I'll be posting a video pretty much at least once a day, and trying to really test this microphone out and see how it does. So before every video that I do for the next week, that I do use this microphone, I'll let you guys know, hey, I have a microphone going, take a test on this, let me know what you guys think about it, and that way you guys can know for sure. So drop comments below, let me know how my audio quality is now versus how it was in my previous videos without the microphone. In about a week or so, I do have a cord coming that will allow me, as I said, that will allow me to use this microphone. This microphone is, I can guarantee you, 10 times better. Well, I mean, it's maybe not 10 times better, but it is better than what I'm currently using. This one was like a $100 microphone. This one I'm currently using is like a $53 microphone with everything else that came with it. The tripod, the flash, you know, everything that came with it. So anyways, let's go ahead and get into the study. Last week I did John 1 redo. Today I am doing John 2 redo. So first thing that I'm going to just go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and just read the chapter, if I can figure out where it is. Okay, so here we go. So John 2. It says, on the third day there was a wedding in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Now both Jesus and his disciples were invited to the wedding, and when they ran out of wine, the mother of Jesus said to him, they have no wine. Jesus said to her, woman, what does your concern have to do with me? My hour has not yet come. His mother said to the servants, whatever he says to you, do it. Now there were 6 water pots of stone, according to the manner of purification of the Jews, containing 20 or 30 gallons apiece. Jesus said to them, fill the water pots with water. And they filled them up to the brim. And he said to them, draw some out now and take it to the master of the feast. And they took it. And when the master of the feast had tasted the water that was made wine, and did not know where it came from, but the servants who had drawn the water knew. The master of the feast called the bridegroom, and he said to him, every man at the beginning sets out the good wine, and when the guests have well drunk, then the inferior. You have kept the good wine until now. This the beginning of signs Jesus did in Cana of Galilee, and manifested his glory, and his disciples believed in him. After this he went down to Capernaum, he, his mother, his brothers, and his disciples, and they did not stay there many days. Now the Passover of the Jews was at hand, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem, and he found in the temple those who sold oxen and sheep and doves, and the money changers doing business. When he had made a whip of cords, he drove them all out of the temple with the sheep and the oxen, and poured out the changers' money, and overturned the tables. And he said to those who sold doves, take these things away, do not make my Father's house a house of merchandise. Then his disciples remembered that it was written, zeal for your house has eaten me up. So the Jews answered and said to him, what sign do you show us, since you do these things? Jesus answered and said to them, destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up. Then the Jews said, it has taken 46 years to build the temple, and you will raise it up in 3 days? But he was speaking of the temple of his body. Therefore, when he had risen from the dead, his disciples remembered that he had said this to them, and they believed the scripture and the word which Jesus said. Now when he was in Jerusalem at the Passover during the feast, many believed in his name when they saw the signs of which he did. But Jesus did not commit himself to them, because he knew all men, and had no need that anyone should testify of man, So yeah, then there is all of chapter 2. So the first things I did is I made lots of notes in my Bible. I can actually show it. I don't know. There's notes right there. Highlights. There's more notes at the top right there. I made quite a bit of notes. So the first thing I noted is, okay, so, oops, let me adjust this real quick. So, first thing I noted was that during this time, running out of wine is a big thing, okay? It is basically like weddings today where you drink water, okay? You usually have some kind of wine or special drink at weddings. And that's kind of the same thing here at this point. Water is common, but drinking wine at a wedding, that's kind of a special thing. That's a really important thing, which is why I'm saying, like, when his mother had said, hey, this wedding, we're out of wine, and she mentioned it to him. The other thing I want to mention first off is when he says woman, he's not meaning it as a sign of disrespect at all. Okay, it is not. It is literally his way of it is his way of how do you want to word it? Say emphasizing. So it's his way of emphasizing that there's a different relationship between them two now. Growing up, yes, he had a mother-son relationship with, because she's the one who birthed him, she's the one who took care of him, she's the one who helped raise him up until of his age. But right now, he's an adult. So there's a big relationship difference between them now, okay? So yes, he is technically human at this point, but he is still the Son of God. He is still the Messiah. He is still the coming Savior and all of that kind of thing. So there is a big difference between. So yes, at one point when he was born, it was I guess kind of like that, because she was still the one looking after him. Now, tables have been turned, and he is like this. He's going to be the one who's going to save her. So him calling her woman is not a sign of disrespect. It is just him trying to emphasize that there is a big difference between their relationship at this current moment. Alright, so the other thing I want to point out is in verse 4, also where he says woman, it says, my hour has not yet come. And at this current point, his ministry had not yet started. That's one of the reasons why he was referring to that, why he was saying my hour has not yet come. The other thing it could be referring to is it is not time for him to go before the Pharisees and get crucified. I can see either or. Okay, so, DB, trying to keep my notes in my Bible studies organized. So yes, as according to 11, this is the one of his first signs that he makes, one of his first miracles, and this kind of gets him started on his ministry. I mean, it's not yet started, but it is on his way to getting it started. So him talking to the servants, him telling, hey, go take these water jugs, go get them filled with water, take them to the master of the house, and have it pour it for him. That is and as I put it here, a lesson of obedience. Okay, they didn't once question him. They just did what he said, because not only did the mother tell him, do what, basically, as his mother says, whatever he says, do you do it? So if for some reason they did take those water jugs to him and it was just water, they would have gotten so much trouble. But because they listened to him, they took these water jugs and it turned into wine. That is a form of obedience. Excuse me. So yes, that was his first miracle. What was nearly... Now here's one thing I put in. He used what was nearby, so that tells us God can use anything. Literally, God can use anything. And then the servants complete, and then the servants, they completely obeyed him. They didn't question him. They didn't say anything to him. They didn't question. I already said that. They didn't question him. They didn't nothing. They just completely listened to him and did as he said. And they had blind faith in him when they gave the water to the master of the house and it turned to be wine. That's kind of what we're being called to do. He's literally calling us to do the exact same thing, having blind faith in him. Now, I really don't want to go too much into this because I know it's going to start an argument with some people, and I'm really not trying to start an argument here with anyone in purpose, but verse 12, when he says, after this he went down to Capernaum, he, his mother, his brothers, and his disciples. So that verse there alone says brothers. And there's another verse in here. I think it was the one I'm currently in. I was just writing those notes last night. It was in it was in chapter 7. Pretty sure of it. Yes, so somewhere in, I'm not going to go looking up directly, but it's in chapter 7 where he says his half-brothers were talking to him and trying to tell him to go to the heart of Jerusalem and go tell him, hey, you're prophesying his Messiah. And he says, brothers, okay? So that alone just proves that is only one verse, and I'm talking about John 2. So John 2:12, where it says his brothers. So Mary did have other kids, okay? Jesus was not her only son. Jesus did have other half-siblings, half-brothers, half-sisters, etc. Okay? So whoever is telling you guys, or who's saying that Jesus or that Mary was a virgin her entire life, that Joseph never touched her, that is complete bullcrap, okay? The Bible even says that he had half siblings. He had other brothers, okay? And I'm not trying to start an argument here, but it is Catholics who do believe that Mary was a virgin her entire life, that she was never had any kind of intimate relationship with her own husband, even though she was married to him. So I don't get it. But whatever the case is, not my business. I don't care. I'm just telling you guys right now what I believe, what I'm studying, what I'm learning, and the fact that verse alone says that Jesus had other siblings. Let me leave that out there now. Okay. Now, going on to the temple. So this was the cleansing of the temple, and there were people that were trying to sell things. They were trying to make a profit, exchange money, and that kind of pissed him off because a temple is not meant for this kind of things. The temple is meant to be for worship. It's meant to go to talk to God. It's meant to be gathering with other Christians and all that kind of things. And that's what it's meant for. It is not meant for what they were using it for. Okay, and when he saw that they were using it, he cleared it out. Okay, and as it says, he drove them out of the temple. He poured out the money. He overturned the monies. And these people wanted to know what sign, what reason, what proof did he have that he was able to go doing this. So that's when he said, destroy this temple in 3 days and I will raise it up. And as the Jews said, it has taken 46 years to build this temple, and you will raise it up in 3 days. And as it goes on to in the next verse, he's speaking of the temple of his body. So for most people know that, even if you haven't read the Bible or not, that Jesus was someone who was eventually crucified, and in 3 days later he rose up from the dead. Okay, so when he's talking about in this verse, he is literally talking about how eventually the Jews are going to kill him. They're going to hang him up on a cross. He's going to die. He's going to get buried, and in 3 days after he's dead and buried, he's going to come back to life. And that is what he's talking about. My temple. Okay, destroy this temple, his body, and in 3 days I will raise it up. 3 days he will raise his body up. And they didn't seem to understand that. I mean, granted, he didn't exactly explain it to them, or at least not that I shows here. But it does give you in the next verse, it does give you a little bit of a foreshadow. It gives you a foreshadow of the fact that his disciples, right after he does get killed and he does get raised from the dead, his disciples remember what he said at this very moment in this verse. And then they believed in the scripture and the word that Jesus has said behind it. So it just kind of emphasizes what he had already said. It's giving you a little bit of foreshadow and giving you like a little bit of a clue as to what is going to happen in the rest of the book. Now, I'm not sure exactly why John did it, but I think they're basically just the idea of that he's trying to give you guys a clue as to who Jesus is and what exactly is going to happen and all that kind of sort of thing. So yeah, so in my notes, I drew this. Okay, not sure if you guys can actually see it. It's a kind of a little acronym kind of picture word thing. Is this arrow going down with a cross, kind of like a little bridge, arrow going up, arrow going down. And the whole entire purpose for that is he came, he died, he rose, he ascended, and he's coming back. So obviously, as I said, as we know, John is giving you guys the clue as to what is going to happen in the rest of the chapter. And like you said, for most people know the story of Jesus. But if you guys don't know, you guys got an idea of what's going to happen in the rest of the book. Now, I would recommend continuing with the rest of John because it is quite easy to understand. It's not as hard as some of the other the books like Matthew or Mark. Mark's kind of a little complicated too, but it's not so bad. Anyways, I don't have a lot of notes for John 2. It is kind of self-explanatory. Like, that's all my notes for John 2. Okay, really not a lot. Now, granted, I don't have a lot for John 3 either, but I want to save John 3 for tomorrow, along with probably Genesis. So, I'm going to try and hit one chapter or two chapters, maybe one chapter from both Genesis and John for the next week. So, up until this weekend. Just so we can test out this microphone and see how it does. But like I said, let me know how it is because I really, really want to know if it's good or not. If you guys hear any kind of ringing in the background, anything like it's staticky, if it cuts out, just let me know. That way I can try, and if it does cut out or if it does have some kind of noise in the background, I can try and fix it or tweak around with this and just kind of I really want to try and make my stuff better. And this was step number 1. I can't wait until I get my my adapter for the other microphone. That one is so much better, but I just can't use it at the moment. Anyways, you guys know the usual drill. Like, share, subscribe, comment, hit the bell button to get notifications, and stay tuned in for tomorrow's video. You guys have a blessed day, and I will talk to you guys later.